Avicenna and the Foundations of Medical Science. Abu Ali al-Hussein ibn Abdallah ibn Sina, known in the West as Avicenna, was a Persian polymath whose contributions to medicine were so profound that he is widely regarded as one of the founders of modern medical science. His work, particularly his monumental Canon of Medicine, Al-Qanun fi al-Tib, was not just a summary of existing knowledge, but a systematic and revolutionary effort that structured medicine into a rational, scientific discipline. Written in the 11th century, this book became the authoritative medical text for over 600 years, influencing medical education and practice across the Islamic world and Europe. Avicenna's medical genius lay in his ability to synthesize a vast body of knowledge from Greek, Roman, and Indian traditions, while also introducing his own innovative observations and clinical insights. He emphasized the importance of a holistic approach to patient care, considering not just the physical symptoms, but also the psychological, environmental, and social factors affecting a patient's health. He was a pioneer in clinical diagnosis, distinguishing between various diseases and their symptoms with a level of precision that was unprecedented. For example, he accurately described the contagious nature of infectious diseases like tuberculosis, and he was among the first to recognize the psychological dimensions of health, suggesting that a person's mental state could significantly impact their physical well-being. He also pioneered the concept of a rigorous clinical trial, advising that new drugs should be tested on a large scale, with both controls and placebos to ensure their efficacy. His work on anatomy, pharmacology, and surgery, though limited by the scientific tools of his time, provided a systematic framework that would guide generations of physicians and set the standard for scientific inquiry in medicine. The Floating Man Thought Experiment. Avicenna's floating man thought experiment is one of the most famous and influential arguments in the history of philosophy of mind. It is a brilliant and concise argument for the immateriality of the soul and the existence of an inherent self-consciousness. Avicenna asks us to imagine a man who is created in a perfect void, suspended in mid-air, with his eyes veiled and his limbs outstretched, so that he touches nothing. He is also deprived of all sensory experience and has no memory of a past. Avicenna's question is, would this person be aware of his own existence? His answer is a resounding yes. He argues that even in this state of complete sensory deprivation, the man would still be conscious of a self, an I that exists independently of his body or any of his bodily sensations. Avicenna concludes from this that the soul, the I, is not a corporeal substance and is not dependent on the body for its existence. Since the floating man is not aware of his body, yet he is aware of himself, the self must be something other than the body. This thought experiment was a direct challenge to the Aristotelian idea that the soul is the form of the body, inseparable from it. Avicenna's argument provides a powerful foundation for mind-body dualism, asserting that consciousness is an essential and irreducible property of a non-material soul. The floating man has been a source of fascination and debate for centuries, and has been seen by many as a precursor to Descartes' famous cogito, ergo sum. Avicenna's proof for the existence of God. Avicenna's most significant contribution to metaphysics is his argument for the existence of God, known as the proof of the truthful, Burhan al-Siddiqin. This argument is a landmark in intellectual history because it is a purely philosophical and logical proof that does not rely on empirical observation of the world, making it unique and highly influential. At the heart of his argument is the distinction between two kinds of existence: contingent existence, mumkin al-wujud, and necessary existence, wajib al-wujud. A contingent being is something that could either exist or not exist. Its existence is not essential to its nature. It depends on an external cause for its coming into being. For example, a tree is a contingent being because its existence depends on a seed, water, and sunlight. Avicenna argues that the entire chain of contingent causes cannot be infinite. There must be a point where this chain terminates, not in another contingent being, but in a being whose existence is necessary. A necessary existent is a being whose very essence is its existence. It cannot not exist. This being is uncaused, without beginning or end, and is the ultimate ground of all contingent things. Through a series of logical deductions, Avicenna argues that this necessary existent must be one, simple, and perfect, possessing all the attributes that are traditionally associated with God in the Islamic tradition. This proof, which moves from the analysis of the nature of being itself to the existence of a necessary existent, has had a profound impact on both Islamic and Western philosophy, influencing thinkers like Thomas Aquinas and Duns Scotus.
Soul, Intellect, and Immortality in Avicenna. Avicenna's philosophy of the soul is a complex and nuanced system that draws from Aristotelian, Neoplatonic, and Islamic sources. He conceived of the soul as a non-material, spiritual substance that is distinct from the body. It is the form that gives life to the body, but it is not dependent on the body for its existence. For Avicenna, the soul is a substance that comes into existence at the same time as the body, but has a separate and eternal destiny. The soul's highest faculty is the rational intellect, which is responsible for abstract thought and the acquisition of knowledge. Avicenna distinguished between different levels of the intellect, from the material intellect, a potentiality for knowledge, to the acquired intellect, the state of having achieved a perfect understanding of all intelligible forms. The ultimate goal of the soul, according to Avicenna, is to achieve this state of intellectual perfection, where it becomes permanently connected with the active intellect, a separate cosmic intelligence that emanates from God. This union with the active intellect is the source of all human knowledge and the key to the soul's immortality. Avicenna argued that once the soul has actualized its rational potential and become a repository of knowledge, it can no longer be corrupted or destroyed. It survives the death of the body and returns to its divine source. This optimistic and intellectualist view of the soul's immortality was a central pillar of his philosophical system. The Canon of Medicine, a 1,000-year legacy. Avicenna's Canon of Medicine, al-Qanun fi al-Tib, is arguably the most famous and influential medical textbook in history. Compiled in the 11th century, this 5-volume encyclopedia systematized all known medical knowledge of the time, integrating the works of Galen and Hippocrates with the insights of Islamic and Indian medicine. But its influence extends far beyond mere compilation. It was a profound intellectual achievement that established a new standard for medical literature. The canon is remarkable for its clear and logical structure. It is divided into 5 books. The first is a general introduction to the principles of medicine and the human body. The second is a detailed list of medicinal drugs. The third focuses on diseases affecting specific organs of the body. The fourth deals with diseases that affect the entire body, such as fevers and epidemics. And the fifth is a formulary of compound remedies. Avicenna's methodical approach made the book an invaluable teaching tool. It was translated into Latin in the 12th century and became a core part of the curriculum in European medical schools at Padua and Bologna, remaining in use until the 17th century. Its influence on medicine cannot be overstated. It was the primary reference text for a millennium, shaping the practice of physicians and the development of medical science for generations. Avicenna and the problem of universals. The problem of universals, a central debate in medieval philosophy, concerns the ontological status of general concepts like humanity or redness. Do universals exist in a separate, perfect realm, Platonic realism, or do they only exist in the mind as concepts, nominalism, or do they only exist in the particular things themselves, Aristotelian realism? Avicenna argued that a unique and highly influential solution that synthesized these perspectives. He introduced a tripartite distinction for the nature of a quiddity, essence or whatness of a thing. First, there is the quiddity in re, in the thing itself. This is the individual, concrete essence of a particular object, like the hoarseness of a specific horse. It is inseparable from the particular horse and exists in the material world. Second, there is the quiddity in mente, in the mind. This is the abstracted form of the essence, a mental concept of hoarseness that is formed by the human intellect. It is this mental concept that allows us to recognize different horses as belonging to the same species. Third, and most uniquely, Avicenna proposed the quiddity per se, the essence as it is in itself, without reference to its existence either in a particular thing or in a mind. This neutral essence is neither universal nor particular. It is only through the human mind's act of abstraction that it becomes a universal concept.
This sophisticated solution allowed Avicenna to avoid the problems of both Platonic realism, which posited the existence of universals in a separate realm, and nominalism, which denied their external reality, providing a powerful framework that influenced later scholastic thinkers like Duns Scotus.
The Avicennian influence on medieval Europe. Avicenna's impact on medieval European thought was immense and transformative, earning him a place among the most important philosophers of the entire medieval period. Beginning in the 12th century, a massive translation effort in Toledo, Spain, made his major works, including the Book of Healing, Kitab al-Shifa, and the Canon of Medicine, available to the Latin-speaking world. His logical, metaphysical, and medical texts were avidly studied and became foundational to the curricula of the newly established European universities. Avicenna's philosophy provided a new and comprehensive framework for understanding the world, one that was more systematic and detailed than anything previously available from the ancient Greeks. His distinction between essence and existence became a central theme in scholastic philosophy, shaping the debates of thinkers like Thomas Aquinas, who engaged with and critically responded to Avicenna's ideas. Avicenna's proof of the truthful and his hierarchical cosmology of emanation influenced discussions about the existence of God and the nature of creation. In medicine, the canon became the standard medical text, shaping European medical practice and education for centuries. The intellectual ferment sparked by the introduction of Avicenna's works helped to pave the way for the Renaissance and the scientific revolution. From Persia to Paris, Avicenna's global impact. The influence of Avicenna's thought transcended geographical and cultural boundaries, making him a truly global intellectual force. Born in what is now Uzbekistan, he wrote in Arabic, the lingua franca of science and philosophy at the time, and his works were disseminated throughout the Islamic world, from Andalusia to India. However, his most significant and lasting impact outside of the Islamic world was in Europe, where he was known as a philosophical giant. Avicenna's ideas traveled from his native Persia to the intellectual centers of Baghdad, Cairo, and Cordoba, and from there to the schools and universities of Paris, Bologna, and Oxford. The Latin translations of his works became foundational texts for European scholars who grappled with his ideas on metaphysics, logic, and medicine. His work helped to revitalize European intellectual life, which had been in a state of relative decline following the fall of the Roman Empire. By providing a systematic and comprehensive philosophical system, he gave European thinkers the tools they needed to engage with the world in a new and profound way. The echoes of his philosophy can be found in the works of Christian, Jewish, and Muslim scholars alike, a testament to the universal appeal and intellectual power of his ideas. Avicenna's psychology of consciousness. Avicenna's psychology is a sophisticated and intricate system that places a strong emphasis on the nature of consciousness and self-awareness. He was deeply interested in the inner workings of the human mind, and his theory of the soul provided a philosophical basis for understanding the mind's various faculties. He argued that consciousness is not a byproduct of the body, but an inherent property of the soul. In his psychological works, Avicenna meticulously described the inner senses, a set of faculties that process and organize sensory data. These include the common sense, which integrates information from the 5 external senses, the imaginative faculty, which stores and manipulates images, and the estimative faculty, which perceives non-sensory intentions, such as the sheep's fear of a wolf. However, Avicenna's most revolutionary contribution was his theory of self-consciousness. He argued that the soul is not just aware of external objects, but is also always and immediately aware of itself. This self-awareness, which he demonstrated with the floating man thought experiment, is a fundamental and irreducible aspect of the soul's existence. He believed that this self-consciousness was the unifying principle of the soul's operations, a central I that persists through all experiences and is the basis for our sense of personal identity. Being and necessity, Avicenna's ontology. Avicenna's ontology, his theory of being, is built upon a fundamental and groundbreaking distinction between essence, mahiya, and existence, wujud. For Avicenna, the essence of a thing is what it is, its nature or definition. Its existence is that it is, the fact of its being in reality. This distinction was a radical departure from the Aristotelian tradition, which had largely treated essence and existence as inseparable. Avicenna argued that for all things in the created world, essence is distinct from existence. The essence of a horse, for example, does not inherently require that the horse exists. It is the external cause that brings the horse's essence into being. This distinction allowed Avicenna to introduce the concept of contingent being, where existence is an accident that is added to an essence. He then used this to prove the existence of a necessary existent, a being for whom essence and existence are one and the same. For this being, to be is its very nature, and its non-existence is a logical impossibility. This necessary existent, which Avicenna identified with God, is the uncaused cause and the ultimate ground of all other being. This intricate and sophisticated ontology provided a powerful framework for understanding the nature of reality and the relationship between God and the created world, and it remains one of Avicenna's most enduring philosophical achievements.